where we're at in the story, this man has learned that this object of beauty has died, um, and he's coming to terms with what that means. Um, the world needed to see her light, but its darkness had destroyed her before she could save it, before he could help her save it. He cried for weeks, his melancholy at the loss of true beauty almost too much to bear. Nights on end, he clutched her photograph, lamenting her loss, before realizing the only thing he could do for himself, for his sanity, for this wretched world that had destroyed her, was to bring her back. In his mind, he combed through her features, comparing his memory with his photographs of her, determining which aspects of her would be the most striking, the most difficult to recreate. Her eyes, of course, it would be difficult to find a match for the deep emerald green that Providence had blessed her with. Her nose, as well, could prove difficult, while on the smaller side, the way it fit onto the frame of her round face was, itself, a thing of beauty. The thought of her face, of course, also reminded him that his canvas would need to have unobtrusive cheekbones to ensure he could replicate her softness. Her hair was wavy, shoulder length, a deep brown kissed with red. That should be one of the easier tasks to find, but keeping it fresh and intact could be an issue. And then the breasts. It would not do for them to be inaccurate. Too small, and they would not demonstrate her femininity. Too large, and they would be obscene. His search began in the opium cellars. There are dozens across the city, the last stop before the grave for the poor souls chewed up and spit out by the city and its industry. From the westernmost bridge to the muddy boundary where the river met the sea, the cellars were littered with women maimed by accidents, with industrial sewing machines, men with faces melted from exhaust explosions, and children orphaned by parents' premature death. They were dark, rotting places where needles substituted for glasses, small lighters momentarily took the place of bright oil lamps, and despair of an entirely unique character held court. The door to the first cellar he visited was wooden and built so that one had to descend directly into it from the street level. A bespectacled old man with spindly fingers and graying skin staffed its entrance. "10 pence to enter, son," he'd said. He looked at the old man with the most plaintive expression he could muster, holding his hat in his hands at his chest, already appearing misplaced here. "I don't mean to be a bother, sir. I'm simply looking for my cousin. We can't find him, you see, and this is our last hope. Please, just look." The man nodded and gestured at the door leading to the cellar's interior. The entrance was not but a foyer, of sorts. The light had spilled into it when he opened the cellar hatch, but that was the extent that daylight could penetrate this place. The doors closed, and darkness closed in, even more so when he opened the entrance into the main room. He could tell a difference in his environment immediately. The smell alone nearly stopped him. A wall of body odor and sex and piss and vomit. He suppressed a gag and held his sleeve to his nose, hoping that the scent of his coat could mask the smell of their addiction. It was not only the odor that hit him. Noteworthy, too, was the darkness. A solitary candle rested in a sconce on the left side of the room, from which emanated a low, flickering light, momentarily illuminating the shapes lying haphazardly on the floor. The cellar room was large, so large, in fact, that the back corners received almost no light at all. He began searching, walking each of the prostrate shapes, examining their features. The first barely reacted, with only her blank eyes following his movements as he shook her shoulder. This one will not do, he thought, nor the next, or the next, or the next, until he found himself beside the candle. He turned his head at a new noise. In the back corner, the faint sounds of two men partaking, the sounds of fingers slapping arms, hushed voices pregnant with risk. At this point, I'll skip forward a little bit. He has found what he deems to be a correct person, and he takes this person down and back to his home. One final time, he examined her nose. holding Lily's photograph up to her face. He had been right. Her nose was perfect. He pulled out his scalpel, carefully extracting the skin and cartilaginous tissue of her nose, taking every care to preserve the delicate curves of the nostrils, the slight dimples where they would meet the nose's central ridge, placing cotton bandages between where he was working and the skin to diminish the amount of blood spilled during the operation. His work took just half an hour. He fondled the liberated nose like a religious icon, looking incessantly from it to Lily's photograph, yearning for the day it could be placed onto his masterpiece. Do you know how important you are? He asked her, caressing her face, receiving no response. Of course you don't. But it's a kindness, this, to spare you from this wretched existence and to make you part of something perfect, to make you perfect. He smiled at the girl's unmoving body, comatose body, knowing that his Lily was worth 1,000 of her. Then he snapped her neck.
It's such an addicting story. Like, I want the rest.
Beautiful.
To quote Hunter Thompson, tell me about the glands.